Hello, everybody. My name's Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I'm not a dog trainer. The people you see here are. Together, they have close to 100 years experience of training dogs, and using that knowledge and experience, we discussed a topic during our forums. And the topic that we're going to discuss today is online dog training certificates or training courses. The reason I wanted to discuss this is when I do my research, sometimes I get little ads and things, and I've been noticing a lot of those lately. I've been noticing a lot of courses advertising for dog trainers. And so my question to you people today is this. In the old days, you would train with a trainer. You'd learn how to train dogs, and you would get hands-on experience and learn everything you needed to do. But nowadays, you can do that online. You can just go on your computer and learn to be a dog trainer and get a piece of paper, or digital piece of paper, I guess it is, and you are a dog trainer. So my question is this: is that a good thing? And if it is a good thing, how do you control it? How do you know that the people who are taking these courses know what they need to know to train dogs? And I'm going to just throw it out there on that one.
Okay, well, the organizations that I'm familiar with that offer a certification for dog training and the courses online, there is always a piece that they pair you with a mentor trainer. So you are working with an actual trainer, or at least observing for some period of time. So the online part is the written part, learning theory and going a lot of learning theory, and just, basics of dog training. And when someone completes this course, are they qualified to be a dog trainer? What do you call the person who graduates last in medical school? Doctor. It doesn't qualify them for more complicated things, but if it's just basic training or puppy classes, certain things somebody can do well. Most, they just need to know their own limitations. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know their own limitations. So, these online schools, it's hit or miss with the mentor that you get, is my opinion. And also as a mentor, it's hit or miss with the students you get too. Some of them, I don't even know why they sign up for these classes. But is it 4-star? No, you're talking about Motel 6 versus, the Ritz, as far as whether or not that person is qualified as a dog trainer. And how do people know? They don't, unless they do some research.
So you think it's up to the people to do the research and see whether, so if they have that online certificate, some people think, okay, they're a great dog trainer, but is that a good thing?
Unfortunately, yeah. It's buyer beware. There's no regulation. There's no standardization. You don't need a license. You don't have to sit down and take a standardized test. That even like estheticians do, or massage therapists, or nail salon people. So you don't need a license. Anyone can call themselves a dog trainer. Unfortunately, there's some attempt at standardization and some attempt at being able to gauge things for the general public. There are independent certifications coming up now, as opposed to certification through the school, which really just means, you completed the coursework. So an independent certification, I think, is a leg up from the certification from a specific school.
Okay. And Steve, I know for a fact you used to train trainers. So what do you think about all these online things?
I'm with Helen. I think we all like Bob Bailey, the chicken guy, don't we? Bob Bailey says, animal training is a mechanical skill.
It is.
Mhm.
Yep.
I've seen people who can't read and write. Trained dogs, amazing.
Yeah.
They had the feel and the touch and the humanity and the eyes. They just had it. They didn't take any online course, And of course, I do more believe that the more people you train with, the broader your training knowledge becomes. And in my experience, because I've had to, when I was at the SPCA, I had these people come to me with, I'm a mentor, I have a student, we'd like to train your shelter dogs. Like, wow, how nice is that? And the mentor asked me for a nice dog to work with, and I sent him to one that I worked with maybe just days before, first time ever. I mean, I just took it out of a run. I took it to Pace University and did a clicker thing, I mean, the dog was awesome. And she had a little female pit bull. They called her Spring because she was just hopping up and down all the time. She was adorable. The mentor goes over there. She's a little overstimulated in the run. He doesn't see that somehow, and he sticks his hand in there, and she pops him a shot.
Mm-hmm. She bites him.
Yeah, but I mean, she didn't rip him open, Joel. But he bled a little bit, But then he went to the emergency room, and that caused a problem for the dog, and the mentorship program got canceled real quick. I'm like, if you're going to threaten the existence of my dogs because you're not qualified to handle the dogs yourself, then I can't let you in here. Now that was the teacher guy,
right?
That was the teacher guy. I mean, and I've had these things where the teachers, and because as we know in our business, there's a lot of attitude about, what's good training. So if you go train with some ring sport guy who's like a, negative reinforcement guy, but, I mean, beautiful stuff, real clean, quick corrections, appropriate, nobody's mad, great recoveries. And you get, I mean, I would call that good training, but, some people would say, oh, no, you got to go to somebody who teaches you this, not that. And so, I think that if you get a little of this and a little of that, I think you win. But where do you go to school to get that? Is there one school that you can really get it? And what if you're a horrible student? Even if you went to a darn good school, even if you had a good teacher, I mean, it takes a long time. It's a practice. It's not just a job. It's a practice. And that's what we do all the time. We practice. We get cases. We have to evaluate them as they come. And then we have to come up with stuff. You got to be imaginative. And, I mean, it sort of leads back to the stuff we've discussed in the past, Joel. I mean, got to be flexible. So I don't know about these online. I don't like the independent stuff because it also is basically written. I mean, we're back to that.
Independent meaning?
Like qualifications, certifications. That
right, okay. So their own individual certifications is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you go to a school, you paid them. They're going to give you a piece of paper at the end no matter what. And if you like to run with that, that's great. But, that's not as real. It should be more real than that. And so you're not supposed to necessarily need that. If you're good at this, you're good at it. And your last client will say so. And, hopefully your next client will say the same. You don't worry about the paper that's hanging on the wall. You worry about how each client feels every day. And that's how you're supposed to conduct yourself. And I don't see where it's some course, who can prepare you for that? You got to train a lot. You got to train with a lot of folks. You got to open yourself up, I think. I don't see that happening with any of these schools somehow. They all seem one way or another to have bad attitudes about the other guy. I'm telling you, it's the Democrats and the Republicans. It's really bad news.
That's true. That is so true.
And we have our liberal these and we have our conservative those, and right? I mean, so it's tough. It's it's a really complicated, Joel.
Yeah, of course.
That's my short piece. Do I like it? I don't like it. Do I like franchise dog trainers? I don't like them any better. Because I think they should probably fall into this conversation a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that certainly is something else to discuss with this, because I think what I'm really discussing is the way it used to be versus the way it is now. And it used to be that you really had to immerse yourself in it and work with somebody and really learn from that person.
Right. And more than somebody, lots of somebody.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
right? If you go to a club, you got one trainer for your CD, you got one trainer for your CDX, you got one trainer for your UD, you got one trainer for your UDX.
That's right.
And so now you're all of a sudden you've got a lot of trainers, and they're all teaching you what they're good at, which are different exercises, right? And you learn how to train all those exercises. If you do it at AKC, it's that way. If you do it at Schutzhund, it's similar. You go to a club, but then there's always people coming in and showing you, no, there's a better way to achieve this, and this is how you get the retrieves, and all that stuff. I think that's what makes us well-rounded, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Steve, and I think it's a shame that if we do have an overall certification for dog trainers, it needs to include all different types of dog trainers. Just like if you're a psychologist, you may have one modality that you work. They don't keep them from getting licenses if they're not a Freudian or whatever their modalities are. They just have done the work, and they can prove that they know what they're doing to get the license. So I think it as Steve said, if you do a certification for dog trainers, who's writing it?
Yes.
Whose modality is it? Whose methods? And I think dog trainers need to, as Steve said, go to all kinds of trainers, both the positive reinforcement, the ones that do corrections, and just to get to know what everybody's doing and what works for you.
Well, and also what you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to know what it is.
Exactly.
Before you say, I don't want to do that.
Exactly. I told Steve that when I studied with him. I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that. And I probably said it like that too.
Not doing that.
So,
yeah, I think everyone's made some valid points. I think of dog training in a roundabout way, very similar industry to being a personal trainer, in that there's certifications in that industry as well. But anybody can slap on a personal trainer title, if you will, on their business card, what have you, or on their website. But then it comes down to different certifications. Same thing within our industry. And then it really comes down to, my feeling is kind of what Helen was saying, learning theory. If there's good science behind it, then it just comes down to who the teacher or teachers are that are putting those programs together, and then also having that hands-on. If it's just reading, anybody could read something and just take from it what you will. But then kind of what Steve is getting to, then there's the mechanical aspect of it, and that feel, that touch. And some people you have it naturally. Some people will just hopefully will pick it up. And some people may just never pick it up. Or like what Helen was saying, maybe they're taking this class for not the good reasons, and then their head's not into it. So,
but has dog training gotten too theoretical, David? Has it gotten too away from the practical?
Yes and no.
Asking.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think too, you have to, when it comes down to working with a client, I think it depends on the client to a certain extent too. I think you have to simplify it for the client. Some clients either have some basic knowledge already, or they're really technical. Maybe they're a computer person. They knows all the nits and grits and things like that, or they're into science or something like that. So they can appreciate you talking all those nuts and bolts and all the gritty things like that. And there's other clients which most of them are going to be, they don't want to know about that. Just fix my dog. I don't care about the learning theory or modern condition or whatever it is. Just fix it. So it just depends. And what happens too, I think, when you talk about the franchise and so forth, I can see that in another industry. Same thing is in the restaurant industry. I know we're kind of getting away from it, but it's very similar in the sense you have some of these famous chefs, talented chefs that start a restaurant, maybe a few restaurants, and they're hopping and they're great and everything else. And all of a sudden they have an idea like, let's franchise this out. Let's get it regional. Let's get it national. And then what ends up happening is then it loses its continuity, and some things start slipping through the cracks.
Sure.
And they're not getting that hands-on, thing. And again, I think that can translate to this industry as well.
I just want to jump in real quick because I was thinking, well, Dog Trainers Connection does online webinars and courses. And trainers come and learn a lot of really valuable things. And like Steve, you did the marking webinar with us, and it's wonderful. And so I think there is a lot of value for learning, but online and courses, but hooked up with the right people doing it. And also, it can't be the totality.
But you're not discussing certification. You're now just talking about learning and information, which gets shared a million ways,
Right.
articles, videos,
Yes.
Right.
That's different.
Online information is different than saying I
went to a school
and I'm now a dog trainer.
Okay. Then I misunderstood that. Sorry.
That's okay. Jeff, you've been kind of quiet for a change.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I have my own dog training school online, so and I can, just from my experience and then having my own online dog training school now for 3 years, nothing beats in-person mentorship. Okay, so I agree with everyone. Nothing beats that. As far as curriculum, I wrote it, so it's going to be mine. And I shouldn't say mine, but it's a lot of the theories that I felt belonged in my program. Number one, you can't fit everything.
Right.
You just can't. So, I had to pick and choose. Obviously, applied behavior analysis, operant conditioning, classical conditioning. Those are biggies early on in my program. But, I have students, they fill out registration information. They understand, number one, there's no governing body for certification. Number two, the fact that I'm certifying them merely means that they're certifying, that they're being certified based on their knowledge base and their hands-on homework, right?
Right.
And although it's online, I do have mentoring and we share videos. So the first 4 courses are all theory. Course 105, 106, 107, 108, there's actually video assignments where I actually critique their handling of dogs. And while that is a good substitute for in-person, it is not in-person.
Right.
And especially because I'm pretty spiritual in nature. And that actually transcends to my relationship with dogs too, and intuition and gut feelings with people. Sometimes you lose those things if you're not in the same room as someone. You can put a good show on for a camera, but unless you're there, and I'm getting clips of what they're doing, what's going on before they got to that point. Those are things you don't see unless you're mentoring with someone, hands on. And I mean, I look back, when I got certified, I don't know when it was, 2001 or 2002 through Certification Council for Pet Dog Trainers. And I was already training for years. And the reason why I got certified was because there was nothing that said you had to be certified. So I just, I wanted to do something at the time to kind of differentiate myself from other trainers. And honestly, it was validation for myself. It was a self-improvement thing. I have no problem admitting that. But back then, you studied for however long I studied for, and then you went into Manhattan with a number 2 pencil, and you sat down for 5 hours. Okay? Now, none of these certification programs can prepare you for that type of test.
Yes.
Because it's all, a course at a time, or it's open book. I mean, I literally walked in with a number 2 pencil. That's all I had.
Yeah.
And granted, I was training for a while already, so that kind of helped me from a study standpoint. But online programs are good, I believe, for knowledge base, provided the knowledge base is consistent. And again, there's a lot of different quote unquote methodologies. We have various parts of the spectrum that dog trainers fall within, but the psychology behind it, it should be consistent through most organizations. And if they're not providing you with an outline or course curriculum information that a student can make an educated decision on whether or not they want to go with that organization, most good organizations will. Oh, Steele, get out of here. And I was a mentor trainer for Animal Behavior College for I don't know, 11 years or whatever. I haven't done that in a long time, but, the students come to you. I don't remember a single one that remembered everything that they studied, not a single one. And I probably had about 50.
They were the worst students I ever had.
And then you have 15 hours to mentor with them. And I told those students the same as I tell my current students, that there is nothing that we could do here in 15 hours or through the course of my program that real life experience.
Right.
That's the bottom line. This is not it's not a substitute.
My question to you, Jeff, is do all these programs do that?
The programs I'm familiar with, and whether people self-study and take it through Association of Pet Dog Trainers, CC, or Certification Council of Pet Dog Trainers, IACP, Animal Behavior College, it's like anything else. The student is responsible for their own career, period. Okay, I could tell you right now, my last 6 students, all paid in full. Currently working with 2 of them. Haven't heard from the others. And I have a 14-day money-back guarantee. So guess what? On day 15, and I try to motivate. I send emails. I call. I text. After 3 or 4 months of hounding people, what do? Do I keep hounding them? I mean, so, there's a responsibility to the student, and whether it's a bigger organization or, a smaller boutique thing like mine, if they're vested in their career, right, they're going to learn about, canine ancestry, operant conditioning, classical conditioning, applied behavior analysis. That's the foundation knowledge-based stuff that they should learn. Training tools. We all talked about breed characteristics some time ago, but, there's a certain base of knowledge that is helpful to be a good dog trainer. And then, because I do offer hands-on for anyone who's geographically close to me, but most of my students are out of my area. So the video is a good help. It does help critique them on their body language, the timing, of whatever they're, whether it's obedience and the timing of their marking, their shaping, efficacy, how they're applying what they learned to the training of a dog. And then my final exam is pretty in depth too, and they actually have to train a dog full from 0 to everything.
Right.
That's one of the final exam requirements. So I don't, I'm not, promoting my school per se, but I don't know any other online courses that they actually have to train a dog to pass.
Yeah.
Where do they get the dog?
Catch Canine Academy.
Okay. Yeah.
In Jersey, they're they're a lot like ABC, but I think they're a little better. And that's one of the things as I mentor for them. The student has to bring a dog and show me the training that they've done.
Oh, so they're in person.
With me, yes.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm talking about
as a mentorship. That's a final type of thing with the mentorship.
Yeah, and it's virtual, obviously, so it's by video. So, and again, I mean, I could tell them till I'm blue in the face, about thresholds and working with dogs and, minimizing the use of corrections when teaching new behaviors. And everybody knows I'll use correction devices like halties and gentle leaders and star mark collars. I don't hide that. But when it comes to teaching new behaviors, I'm very much about the science behind positive reinforcement. And I think, I don't see that in the behind the scenes where you do see that in person. You can see how someone is interacting with a dog. And when you're doing this long enough, it doesn't take you long to figure out how they got to where they are. So they, you can't fake that kind of stuff. But from a knowledge-based standpoint, I think most of the certifications are good. And I think most dog trainers should at least seek how, in whatever venue, whether it's in person or online, they should seek to, to advance their knowledge base, especially in, the psychology of dog training.
And also what Steve was saying, and the way I came up with the dog training is, I think everybody should take their own dog and work towards a CD and do agility and, train their own dog, and then watch what their obedience instructor does and see if they can mentor with them or become an assistant to them, which isn't that easy, but that's where I think you learn a lot of the mechanical skills.
Yeah, find somebody who dazzles you and try and, follow them around. But you got to be out there, you got to go to some like contests or whatever, see who's doing what, how they're doing, and that kind of stuff. And when you see somebody's got something good going on, you got to try to latch on to them for a little while, right? And get some of that. Those in the old days, well, at least from my club, we used to have like John Rogerson come from England, and we used to like ship them. We would ship them, pay the money, ship them over. But some of those seminars, like working seminars, were like amazing. Tracking and stuff, retrieving stuff. Awesome. We don't get a lot of that. I don't see it a lot these days. Who gets to do that? Right?
There are some groups that do that. I see it on the seminar groups on Facebook. A lot of working events. But it is happening, Steve.
No matter what kind of dog you have. I'm not talking about working dogs necessarily. What if you got a Springer Spaniel and you want to do some stuff? You got to find the appropriate.
Yeah. I know Gary Wilkes is doing a lot of that.
That's interesting. Is he an AKC obedience competitor?
No, I meant he's doing a lot of workshops, clicker training and target training.
Yeah, I like him.
But the fact is that the more that time goes on, the more we're getting more and more into a digital world. And probably we're going to get more and more into digital dog training. As with everything that we discuss in this forum, it's complicated, as Steve says. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. I'd like to thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.
Bye.